From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Do you hate sports? Do you dislike fantasy football? Even worse, do you dislike listening to people on podcasts talk about fantasy football? If I'm describing you, we'll see you in January, because it's Pod Therapy's Fantasy Football, and it has officially begun.
Dun, 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 dun.
And now, broadcasting from the Churn, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
We did our official Pod Therapy Fantasy Football draft this morning, 9 a.m. Pacific. That was the fastest draft in the history of drafts I've ever been a part of.
Yeah.
Whole thing was over in like an hour.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
I would like to just say up front, if my picks are... Wait, what is it?
You suck on a football.
If my picks are bad, I blame it on the lack of coffee. Because I was sitting there with one hand trying to get the stupid thing to pick, and then the other hand trying to start up my coffee pot. And my Ninja coffee pot failed. So I hate you, Ninja Coffee. And if you want to send me a new coffee pot, that'd be great, because it's broken. And I may have thrown it on the floor.
Okay, good story.
That's why it didn't work. So,
yeah.
But you did pretty good, Nick. And we'll talk at the end of the show a little bit more about the official draft results and making fun of select people that we should choose to, and talking as much trash as we possibly
we'll
can.
share some of the names. I'm very disappointed in yours, by the way.
Really? That is my classic.
I know, but
fantasy
you
football
missed such
name.
an opportunity to have a really cool name.
What are you thinking? What should I have picked?
Well, I had a couple in mind. I was going to do the Freudian slips. That was going to be my first one.
Pretty good. I thought the Philly Freudians turned out pretty good. That was pretty good. Brian did that.
Brian had his first. So I'm like, well, I don't want to double down on that. So then I went with the Milgram Shockers.
I thought that was solid. That was solid.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that was a solid name.
He's a shock therapy guy?
Milgram was the...
I'm glad you asked.
I'm glad you asked that question.
I was really just looking for a yes or no.
Well, you're going to get the whole story.
Ah, damn it.
So Milgram did this great experiment where he was looking at authoritarianism and how people, especially building off of World War II and the Nazis, how people would just follow orders. So anyway, what he did was he would have people shock other people to see whether or not they would continue to do this, even though the person was in great pain, and they did.
Yeah.
So there you go.
To see whether the person would do what, even though they were in great pain.
If they would continue.
Oh
to
my
follow
God!
orders.
Who the hell cares?
If they would continue to follow orders, knowing that they're hurting somebody.
What if the order... Okay, so the order is to hurt somebody to see
No,
if they'll do it. I could have done that experiment in 5 seconds. Humans love to torture other humans. Like, you don't have to pay them for that. You don't have to ask them to.
No,
They'll just
but
be horrible.
People would refuse, but then they would ultimately follow through. Like they would say, "No, I'm not going to do this anymore." But they would do it
Until
they would continue to.
Please shock that person with 100,000.
So basically, they had questions. They had to answer questions, and if they got the question wrong,
got
then
shocked.
the subject was told to administer a shock to the person. They couldn't see the person. The person was on the other side of a screen.
Oh, so it's like that movie with the box and the button. You hit the button and you kill 5,000 people somewhere on Earth, and you never see them, but you get $1 million.
No, it's not like that. But anyway, so they would.
I really
do
like
this,
your football
and
name.
So
It's exactly like that.
This is a great science
am
experiment.
I the only one here who cares about learning something?
Yes.
It's weird it took you this long to figure that out.
All right. Well,
Surprise, motherfucker.
THERAPALs, look it up. It's good. It's
Milgram's
interesting.
Shockers.
Yes.
It was excellent, Nick. It was a solid name. Philly
That's all I
Freudians
wanted.
was good. Dan Martin's was Pod Therapy Listens to You, and it's a picture of Yakov Smirnoff.
Yeah.
I thought that was
good.
pretty solid. Yeah, there's some good ones. I have to go back and see them
So
all.
what is yours, Jim?
Sin City Shrinks.
It's terrible.
It's solid. I love that damn name.
I was
That's
hoping
actually
for like
all of
Jim's
his.
neuroses.
Yeah, that would have been good.
That would have
too.
been better.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
actually would have been solid.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we have got a special guest with us here in studio. What a special treat. We've got ex officio board member Ellie O'Daire.
Good morning.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us here in fabulous Las Vegas, which you were telling us before we started that you come through here all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, this is just one of the hubs that you're like passing through. Do you just pass through Vegas? Is it just a proper route to get to other places?
I have one customer in Las Vegas because apparently you guys go through a lot of ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Well, it just melts. So we just
Yes.
need more.
I've actually got 2 customers here. You guys just opened a Smith's distribution center. down the
Okay.
road.
So this is probably a good point to explain to the listeners. What do you do? What is your industry?
I'm an over-the-road truck driver.
Is there an under the road truck driver?
I don't think
Not
so.
yet. Not yet. Yeah.
Elon Musk is working on
He's
that.
that boring project, right? Between his automated trucks and his tunnels, he's almost there.
People.
So you drive. You were telling us before we started recording, all across the country.
Correct.
You're everywhere except for Maine and Rhode Island for very specific hate-filled reasons.
There's nothing there. I mean, I'm allergic to moose.
Are you serious?
No.
Oh,
That would have been a really solid example.
Actually, I think I should clarify. I don't know.
The question should have been the dessert or the animal.
Yeah. I don't take chances.
My
It's
mind
both.
automatically went to the animal.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, and I'm thinking I don't know if there's any in Rhode Island, but there's got to be some in Maine because that's just the tundra up there.
The only place I've seen one so far is Wyoming.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Jackson.
Oh, man. So moose, though, I mean, when you see them, that is the one thing that could threaten your semi.
They're terrifying.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Oh, they
It's
are.
a tank of an animal.
The one I saw just walked over a fence like it wasn't even there.
Wow.
Yeah, they are enormous animals.
The rules
They
don't even
are
apply.
shockingly large. I mean, they're the size of a Clydesdale.
Yeah.
But with a huge spread of horns.
Have you seen, there's a caution sign that I've seen, I don't know if it's real, but it just says invincible moose next 15 miles. And it's like a caution. It's
I've
like
seen things
a
like
picture
that
of
graffitied
crumpled
onto
cars.
signs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it. Well, if there was one thing it could probably plow through the moose, I guess it would be your vehicle. That's the one.
I have a small deer guard, which is good for does and small bucks, but cannot handle elk.
Have you ever hit any animal?
Nothing bigger than a raccoon.
Oh, okay. So nothing huge tried to gallop across and just get smashed.
They've tried. I've missed them all.
Aw, you're not trying hard enough. You get bonus points for those.
No, I gotta think a moose would do some serious damage
Oh,
to
yeah.
a semi.
That stops the truck. Yeah, I think that you have to log that. You
They're
have to
tall
get
enough.
out.
If you hit them hard, they can come through the windshield.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
And they're like 800 pounds.
And they don't die. They're just very angry afterwards.
It's like the
You
Terminator
have a
of
pissed off
animals.
moose in the cab with you.
He just reforms.
Oh, my
as
God.
Liquid metal. Just starts running after your truck. Oh, they're terrifying. That's all I hear is how scary these damn things are. We have nothing that big at all in the desert Southwest. So
You
I
have elk?
imagine
You guys have elk here.
we have elk.
You
elk.
have lots of elk here.
Really?
We have wild burros.
Oh, did you hear about the burros? There's a $65,000 reward if somebody could figure out who the hell's murdering all the burros.
I haven't heard about either of those things.
Yes, there's
I haven't heard
somebody
that this
shooting
one-
them in the head. There's just a lot of dead ones now. It's like 40 of them. So
Teenagers.
Oh, by the way, I was under on the moose weight. I said they weighed 800 pounds. An average adult weighs between 840 and 1,500 pounds.
damn, that is incredible.
It's a big animal.
That's the car. They don't care. You just do more damage to the car.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you hit 1,000-pound rock driving a semi around. That's going to fuck your semi up.
That's just only going to break your car. So you travel the country, and one of the things that you've shared with us over time. So we knew about your profession. We know that you drive. And you've written into the show before, and some of the things you've shared about are some of the unique industry challenges that come with the lifestyle of traveling from one side of the world to the other and just constantly moving things. There's aspects of that which come down to how you socialize, how you connect with people. Obviously, you have so many hours to fill that you finally sink down low enough to listen to pod therapy, which is pretty bad. So scraping the bottom of the barrel there.
I mean, I don't get to them right away. It
Yeah.
takes a couple of days. I only
takes a
just
while.
got to Yakov Smirnoff yesterday, so I'm a little bit worried that I'm following up that. But
Yeah. It's hard to follow up Yakov Smirnoff. So
Dr.
You'll be
Drew,
fine.
Yakov Smirnoff, me.
yeah, that's right.
I don't
Yes.
know who you're interviewing next week, but
Well,
I'm
Dr.
curious to see
Drew,
how much
I'm
longer
glad
you
you
can
brought
get.
that up because Dr. Drew has officially endorsed pod therapy of his own free will.
Yeah, had nothing to do with the money he got.
It's free will. He took that money. He didn't have to. I'm sure he vetted us thoroughly, Nick. Anyway, so in that industry you've shared about, it can be isolating, it can be unique, and then you as a human being have your own unique backstory, which you've shared on the show with name attached, and you gave us permission to talk about here, has added to the complexities of living. Share with the audience a little bit about that.
I am transgender. I transitioned back in 2010, 2011 when I was just getting out of university. And I could not get a job in the field that I have a degree in.
Oh, what is your degree in?
Weather forecasting, meteorology.
It is a tough gig.
It turns out the country was not ready for a transgender TV weather person.
Wow.
Still don't think they are.
Geez, so you did do some interviewing and some checking to see what was available out there, and then this would come out. It would be something that you were forward with.
Yes, sadly, it's very visible in background checks.
Oh, is it?
Name
I didn't
change.
think about that.
Oh, the name change. Wow.
I never thought about that.
Oh my goodness. So when they do just a standard criminal background check, they will see the name has been changed.
Right. I would get the interview, and then I would go home from the interview and never hear anything back, because that wouldn't be when they did the background check.
Oh wow. That's terrible.
Yeah. Because most of those places are based out of Kansas, Oklahoma, and it turns out not super LGBT friendly, those areas.
Yeah, Kansas.
Yeah.
Mid
The Bible
country.
Belt? You're kidding.
Yeah.
Shocker.
Well, it's because of all that food poisoning and corn. So you started off, you go through your transition. You said it was about 9 years ago. Is that what I heard? Okay. And so then tried to get into your industry of choice, meteorology. You seem to enjoy science. You don't mind sharing, communicating, but it never came together for you.
Correct. And I ended up working a dead-end fast food job, which they promoted me to a manager at one point, paid me $1 an hour more.
Ooh,
Yeah.
tasty.
And then I was suddenly responsible for things, and I didn't like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Thanks for the buck.
Also, the sanitizer that they used to clean everything was literally burning the skin off my hands.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
I moved into security at a Best Buy. And
But
that
was that skin clean when it came off?
That's what
very
matters.
clean.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very clean.
yeah,
It
yeah.
also made the biscuits taste delicious.
That also might have been fry grease looking back on it. Guys, have you all dipped your hand into the bubbling cauldron of sanitizer? No, Ellie. So you switched gears. You ended up getting into transportation and
Yes.
shipping. And when did you start that?
2016. There was a video game came out in February, American Truck Simulator. So I taught myself how to back trucks in a video game, and I'm like, I think I could just do this for real.
Wow.
And
Really? That's how you got into it?
yes.
That's so cool.
I was Googling something in the game trying to figure out why way stations exist. What's the point of them pulling you in and letting you go and saying bye?
Yeah.
And
right.
nothing happens. As I was Googling what they were for and found a YouTube channel run by another driver for the company that I'm currently with. And she got me into their training program.
Wow. And the rest
I'm still
is
driving for
history.
them.
What's your favorite thing about the industry?
Lots of time to listen to podcasts.
Yeah, that is
Oh,
kind of
sure.
cool. And not having like a direct person like you and all this ecosystem of people they have to like manage or solve problems. It's like, nope, I just head to my destination. Just focus
Right.
on that.
I am my own boss. I do all the trip planning. I get to exercise the whole weather forecasting chops for my own route every time. And it's a very fulfilling job because I haul food. So I'm literally feeding America.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that is really cool. It's funny because I know there's been several times in my life where I've fantasized about going into that just because I think like the solitude of it is very inviting at times. just to
How good are
focus.
you with porta potties?
Oh,
Because that's a big part of it.
I think it's my favorite thing. I
Oh.
should have led with that.
I don't know.
No.
No,
that part
you
wouldn't
are
work.
absolutely not that type. You're the type you will leave a music festival to go home if you have to use the restroom. I
Yes.
think that's more your
Oh
type.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, versus a porta potty?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I'm good. No, I mean I would do it if I had to rough it. You know, if I had to rough it. You know, like the Holiday Inn's backed up, it's not working. You gotta pop into that porta potty and do what you gotta do.
Smokey and the Bandit, best movie ever or worst movie ever?
I haven't seen it.
Oh,
There's the answer. So
I have zero cred with all of the truckers because every other trucker in the industry got into the industry because of Smokey and the Bandit.
and you didn't do it.
And I've never seen
seen
it.
it. I love
got
it.
in because of a video game.
I love
They
the
all-
generational gap that you're like, I got into this because of a video game, and they're like, who are you?
how realistic is the video game now that you are a truck driver?
The roads in real life are actually a little bit smaller, but the customers are bigger.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
so that's always fun.
the humans?
Well,
They stand at usually about 5'9".
in the video game, every road you can turn down with a truck pretty easily. In real life, you can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever gotten stuck?
Under a bridge, no. I've had to back out of some roads that I could not go down.
Uh-huh.
And I had a nice heart attack moment with a bridge in New Jersey where the first sign for it was listed the height is like 3 inches shorter than my truck.
Oh my
and I got to the
gosh.
bridge and it was the sign on the bridge itself was an inch taller than my truck. So I just crept under it staring. I've got a light on the front of my
Oh, my
trailer
God.
so that I can tell if I'm going to hit the bridge. It just creep under it about half a mile an hour.
Oh my gosh.
That's
where you're hoping that road is flat.
Thankfully, that was at like 3:00 in the morning and there was nobody around me.
So you have the time. Yeah,
Yes.
you're just like, we're going 1 mile per hour
Okay.
through this thing.
So here's a question for you. I've heard, and I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that some truck drivers, if they are going under a bridge that has like their clearance is just right at that mark of how tall they are, they'll speed up. No, hold on. They speed up to
I know
lower
what
the
Nick's
truck.
about to say, and I believe it makes sense
get
in
underneath.
theory.
Yeah, to get underneath of it.
That's not how physics works. That if you go forward at a higher velocity, you're going to lower the truck.
It wasn't how physics work, but in the 2020 Freightliner that's coming out this year, that truck actually does lower its suspension if you drive faster.
Are you serious?
It's a fuel-saving thing, but
Nick just dropped the
Literally-
mic at me.
literally did not exist until like a month ago. So
Wow.
So
you
That
gotta
we had
have-
on an earlier episode.
That's some bravado. You're like, well, we're not going to make it. Let's hit this bitch as hard as we can.
generally, the strategy if you're just like an inch too tall for a bridge is to let the air out of your tires.
Oh, see, that makes a lot more
okay.
sense
This
than
truck-
going at suicide speed.
Trucks have built-in air compressors for
Gotta
the brakes,
ram it.
so you can
Okay.
you can release air from your tires, get to the other side, and air all your tires back up.
What is an air
Oh.
brake? Don't you guys have air brakes in
Yes.
your vehicles? What does that do?
So there's we have what are called spring brakes. When there's no air in the system, there's a spring that locks the wheels into place so the truck can't move.
Okay.
Nick just picked me up from my truck.
Yeah.
Coming in here, and I had to pop the air brake, so you heard the psh noise
Yeah.
come out, and so that spring is in place. When you start the truck up and put air to the trailer, that releases all the springs.
Oh.
So then the wheels can roll, and then there's another chamber of the brake where you can add more air, and that engages the actual brake mechanism. I've got disc
see.
brakes all around.
So the air is the thing giving pressure. See, I totally thought it was like Looney Tunes. Like, you just pull the air brake and you stop midair.
No, actually, the spring brakes, you don't really stop very hard if you release those while you're driving, but there's a lot more force behind the pedal brake.
Ah. See, Nick, it's the pedal brake. That's... Looney Tunes didn't go into that.
Okay, good. Thank you,
Foot
Jim.
brake, service brake.
I really am glad I don't do anything that actually involves moving huge machines.
I'm glad. Yeah.
Also, you dummy. At least I wouldn't plunge myself into the bridge.
The fun part is because they're all pneumatic, it actually takes a moment before the brakes engage when you hit the pedal, which is kind of disconcerting the first time you drive a truck. When you hit the brake and nothing happens. for
Oh
5
my
seconds.
god. I would lose
Wow.
it.
Real quick, Jim, do you know what pneumatic means?
I'm going to go with some form of arthritis.
Great.
For 500.
Yes, just like pneumonia.
Yeah, that one. That's what I was going with. Is it a respiratory thing? Or yeah, let's go with yes. So, bigger story. That is your industry, and I would imagine it is at times isolating all by itself.
Yes.
And just the reality, as you said, is I don't have a boss. I don't have this ecosystem of humans that I have to interact with and follow up and be like, oh, Becky, how's your son? So it's not like that. You're very individualized, and that's nice to be so self-reliant. But then you were explaining in one of your previous letters to the show that aspect plus being trans has caused you to have like this isolated plus 10 kind of effect.
Absolutely. I don't really fit in with the truckers that hang out at truck stops. I can't just go in and sit at the counter and banter with the other drivers. And I'm 6'3", so I don't really fit in too well. As I don't pass as cis very often.
Okay.
My voice is pretty good, so I can talk my way out of a lot of situations, but I don't really, people, until they hear my voice, assume I'm a dude. A lot.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that surprises me. I wouldn't have guessed that.
People tell me that all the time, and then I still get served everywhere, so I don't know.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah.
So then in the ecosystem of the truck driving community, it sounds like maybe it tends toward maybe more conservative or
Very
just,
much so, yeah.
and then some folks just, they're not at ease. And so they go do
Right.
their own thing. And so it's hard to kind of backslap and be like, hey, everybody, how's your trip? It's not like that.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a very conservative industry.
Yeah.
Truckers voted like 75% for Donald Trump, I think, in the last election. It was something
wow.
ridiculous like that. And then the tax laws kind of screwed us
Yes!
over, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But
wow.
I saw that on the news that truck drivers overwhelmingly were in support of Trump, and then now like
They got hurt by taxes?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
totally kicking them.
Man, that's surprising that Donald Trump wasn't consistent in serving the people who elected him.
Who'd have thought?
And
I
I, for one, am shocked.
I thought he was a straight shooter all along.
Yeah, seemed like a real maverick.
there was a tax break previously where truckers could deduct like $50 or $60 for food every single day they're on the road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's gone now.
And that which adds up
tax
to like
credit's gone.
$10,000 to $14,000 a year for most
Wow.
truckers. And if you're an employee now, that's gone.
Wow.
Your boss has to take that deduction and then reimburse you for it. And most trucking companies didn't even know that it happened, so they don't do that.
That's incredible.
And that makes a big difference too.
$14,000 is a very large chunk of the average trucker's paycheck.
Yeah, right. And if you think about it, you guys individually operate in so many ways, almost like a small business. Like, you really should have the rights to deduct. But finances and taxes aside, let's talk about your humanity.
Well, and you'd written into the show.
Yes.
We gave you some feedback. Exactly how useless was our feedback?
Yeah, like on a scale of 1 to -10.
I don't have a therapist, but I did get a girlfriend.
Oh,
So,
very
okay.
nice.
Progress.
There you go.
It's
step in
not
the right
exactly what
direction.
you recommended, but it's close.
Yeah, that's ballpark.
It was about that.
I think that's where we were going. Yeah, helpful human in your life would have been a good recommendation. So to remind listeners, I don't even remember which episode it was, but it was this year, and so it was backtracked a little bit, and you had written a letter, and you had described yourself as being in the parking lot of, I think it was an Iowa McDonald's.
Yes.
And just at a dark spot. What was going on in your life?
I had just moved out of the apartment that I'd been living in since my parents kicked me out. And I moved out of that apartment without anywhere else to move into. I had just, all my stuff went in a storage unit. I'm just driving full time now. I take time off, visit family, or get a hotel room somewhere cool, that sort of thing. So I just kind of became disconnected from all of the roots I'd ever put down. And I haven't found somewhere else to put them down yet. And I was just driving for the sake of driving, and it was getting lonely. It was getting really hard to keep going every day.
Yeah, and whenever you're that unmoored and you don't have community, and one of the things I remember you had said in your letter was, I try to use online community, to the extent that I can, but you were kind of saying even that has at times gotten really toxic.
Yes, the online community can be extremely toxic for trans folks. There's people on social media sites that literally just keyword search for terms about trans folks to harass them.
Gosh.
Which is always fun.
Yeah.
But that's what the block
The
button's for.
things that people spend their time on.
Yeah. I really want to be cruel, but I lack the vocabulary. Let's take some time.
Yeah.
Like, let's really get this right.
That is amazing to me. It's horrible that people have these thoughts and that people want to do this in the first place.
Yeah.
Secondarily, it's amazing to me that people will spend the time and burn the calories.
Oh, yeah. To go,
To do
get on
that.
Amazon, order Uncle Bob's Bigot Dictionary. That's a lot of effort just to get that right.
Are they a new sponsor?
Yeah. Pod Therapy's brought to you by
Hold on,
Uncle Bob's Bigot Dictionary.
I'm gonna write that down.
That'll be one of the many merch products that will be coming to all the Patreons. So it's this toxic kind of space. And one of the things I remember you talking about was even people that you grew up with and friends and family and stuff like that, especially during a political season, that was a big part of the letter too, was, here are these folks and they are saying these really hurtful things just out loud at the universe. And I think this was also during that season of time where the debate was very hot about Donald Trump removing transgendered troops from all parts of the military.
Yes, which is several friends of mine lost their jobs because of that. They were in the military, and when serving trans people became okay, they actively started transitioning in the military, and all the ones that didn't go what the military considers the full transition surgery and whatnot, all of them are no longer allowed to serve.
Wow. That is incredible. And so here you are living in a world, in an ecosystem of 2019, 2018, in which over and over again, the message that you're receiving from culture is, we don't accept you. Here you are, you have this degree in a very specific form of science, you're ready to go out and serve people with that, protect people with that, and you're being told by employers, through silence and through neglect, we're not interested. And then, meanwhile, you're trying to make this very big decision for yourself. It's extremely isolating because of the industry you ended up finding yourself in, and then just the ecosystem of humanity online. For better or worse, it's nice to be able to talk to these people, but on the other hand, you're having to overhear and just witness the venom that's coming out of them and just how hurtful it is. And then, meanwhile, the head of our entire nation is saying, just openly, I don't consider you a person. You're not going to serve in our military. You're just not worthy of that. How have you managed to cope with this? There could be so many people right now that might hear this that are thinking the same thing, and they're like, how are you standing? Like, how did you get this far?
It's mostly I just focus on interacting more with other members of my community. I follow a lot of other trans people on the internet. One of the nice things about this job is I make a lot more money than a lot of other trans folks, so I can help out with medical bills that pop up for people, that sort of thing. If someone had a surprise dental bill that I just paid off completely a couple weeks ago anonymously, it felt great.
Oh my
I love doing that
gosh.
sort of thing, and just putting my success in this industry back into the lives of other trans people to make them a little bit better has been a huge way that I've been able to feel better about what's going on.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That is beautiful.
That's awesome.
And that actually it brings up a really valid point, because I think that when listeners and when the average American hears about the trans community, they limit their understanding of that to, this is about the psychology of gender, or it's about identity, it's about society. It's also about economics.
Yes.
And we don't talk enough about that. And whenever I had Dr. Sarah Steelman on the show back in May, Dr. Steelman's also trans, is a trans therapist. And one of the things that was mentioned at that time was that for Dr. Steelman's work, it's very difficult because oftentimes, while wanting to serve the trans community, they simply can't afford help. And
Right.
a lot of that's economic.
A lot of trans people are homeless. A lot of trans people don't have jobs. There's literal cooperative farms of just trans people out in certain places where they just gather as many people as they can into one group and become self-sustaining.
Wow.
And the few of us that find success in our industries really try to put our money back in to help other people. It's kind of a joke among us that trickle-down economics only really exists in the trans community and nowhere else.
It's not actually a thing. Unless you're with us, then in which case, we give back to our own. Wow, that is incredible.
That is amazing, though, that you've kind of established that system that, everybody's going to be kind of helping each other out and pulling each other up,
And I also do, I have a small YouTube channel that I try to just show day in the life stuff from my job constantly. And it's encouraged a couple of other trans folks to get into trucking because this is an industry where you can just do this. It doesn't really matter what you look like or where you come from. If you can drive a truck, they need you because there's not as many truck drivers as there are trucks that need to be driven in this country right now.
Wow.
Oh, that's true.
What's your YouTube channel, if you don't mind?
It's literally just my name, Ellie O'Daire.
Ellie O'Daire. ELLIEODAIRE.
I think the URL is like WX Azure, Azure.
Okay, that is not Ellie O'Daire.
If you just search my name,
It's just my name, WX Azure.
If you just search my name, I pop up. The channel name is my name.
Fair enough. So one of the things that we're kind of learning is, how have you coped with this? Whenever you're surrounded by hate, whenever you're surrounded by people that are cruel, whenever doors are staying locked for opportunity, you've adapted, you've navigated, you've done that with finding your career, you've done that in the way that you strategically choose relationships that are useful and nourishing, and you've invested in those. And then it sounds like another thing that you've done is you've tried to pay forward kindness, like be the angel to other people that wasn't there for you in a sense,
Yes.
and like make that difference for them. And you lit up just now, talking about that.
Because I did have a couple of people that were that for me in college. A friend of mine who actually works at a university close to where I grew up now. He was a huge resource for me when I was in university and helped me get my housing sorted, so I wasn't sharing a room with a guy. And then a couple of other trans people that were just in the community in Charlotte. We helped get a non-discrimination ordinance added to the school policies. It was just a great community that really helped me get my foothold as a trans person just coming out.
That's incredible. And one thing I think that we really want to make sure all the listeners are hearing behind this as well. If you identify as, I believe, and Dr. Steelman was teaching me some of the language, cis is sort of like what we think of as the two-gender binary box, right? Okay. And I think that worldview is often completely oblivious to the suffering and to the struggles of other people. And they may not personally want any ill fate to anybody. They may not have any malice at all in their heart, but they're just completely blind to it. And so one of the things I think is so valuable is helping people think about this for a second. It wasn't very long ago that you were fighting to get a non-discrimination ordinance passed at your school just to not be discriminated against. It's currently something up for vote about whether trans people can serve our country to protect us and be part of the American story. I believe it was just being discussed in the news whether it's okay now to fire people for being LGBTQ. That's incredible.
It is currently legal to do that on any non-federal jobs, and what they're trying to do now is to take away the protections for federal jobs.
Just to make it so that we can just fire you.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough to get a job. I mean, that is just economic apartheid. It's not okay. And that's something that, you have found a way around, and it sounds like you've really made lemonade out of the lemons. But so many other people do not have that opportunity. And it doesn't come together. And that's one of the things that sounds like you're trying to do is also teach people economic freedom opportunities and how to get involved.
Right. And then the other frustrating thing is that I know this job's not going to be around forever just because eventually automation is going to take away the
why does
job,
Elon Musk hate the trans community so much? I mean, that's what I just heard. Right? I feel like that's what it was.
Drivers.
Shots fired, Musk.
Come on the show, Elon. We'll make it right, and we won't ask you to smoke any weed. You'll be fine.
The frustrating part about the Tesla truck is it only has one seat.
Oh,
so
really?
You can't train a new driver in a Tesla truck. There's nowhere for the person teaching them to sit.
Oh, wow.
Somebody didn't think of that.
Well, the robots. They'll kill us all anyway. And we won't even need any trucks. They'll just be moving parts from A to B, and they'll do it their own way. So one of the things I want to make sure that we address is whenever you wrote that letter was in a dark space, you were just commenting and saying, I've made some life changes. I've gotten into a relationship. That's positive for me. What else have you been doing for yourself to just kind of manage your life?
I spent a very long weekend hanging out with my sister and my two nephews. And that is just recharging on an emotional level that I cannot express in words. Just, they're tiny humans that are learning words, and it's fascinating to watch them. Every time I show up, they're completely different people.
Aww.
Wow.
Which is incredible.
So just budgeting that self-care, making sure that if you have to say no to a trip to make sure that happens, it's worth it.
Yes.
You may not realize
it's
that you're
remarkably difficult to get cargo to South Dakota.
It's like there's no people there. They just don't need things. So self-care in relationship is something I'm hearing. In dating life, in family life, budgeting time to be in the presence of other humans that are restorative to you, that are nourishing to you. And then you had teasingly said, well, I haven't found a therapist yet. Is that a common challenge for people in this industry, that it's difficult to find a therapist just because of the nature of the work?
Yeah. Also, trans folks don't tend to trust people very easily. A lot of aspects of transitioning require therapists to sign off on things. You mentioned it with the interview with Dr. Steelman, that there's a gatekeeping aspect to it. So a lot of trans folks really don't trust doctors because there's all these hoops that we have to jump through to just get hormone pills, which are such minor little things.
Right.
Yeah, so there's a medical distrust in the community.
Absolutely.
And does that kind of trickle down into the sense it might cause people in the community to neglect self-care, medical care, just avoid it altogether?
Absolutely.
It's
a common problem with trans folks. A lot of us don't really take care of ourselves before transitioning, and then kind of learning those skills after we transition. It's like, this is all stuff that we were supposed to learn as teenagers, like how do you clean your hair sort of stuff. And a lot of us don't have great dental hygiene aspects of that sort of thing. And then as trans adults in reality, we can't really afford insurance either for the most part.
Right.
I'm one of the lucky few who can, but I don't have any opportunities to use it because I'm a truck driver.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right.
Hospitals don't have truck parking.
Wow. I mean, it's such a unique, I think, world that you live in where you balance in all these aspects, from the unique challenges of your industry to the unique life that you're living and trying to be that authentic person in this world and 2019 during a very weird season of time. You're balancing all these things out, and I can tell that at least I know that you're taking it seriously. Like, your self-care is on the up, and it sounds like that's a message you're trying to give back to your community as well. You're worth it. It's okay to do self-care. Please make that a priority. If you don't, you could be putting yourself in danger.
Absolutely. I know drivers that have died from an abscessed tooth.
Oh, my goodness.
Just other truck drivers, not even trans people. And so I know that's one of those aspects where I can help out, is because dental bills aren't that expensive for the most part compared to other medical bills. So it's like, this is a thing I can help you pay for. Like, take care of yourself, please.
Wow. That's amazing, Ellie. I mean, you're a very inspiring person. I hope that you know that. I'm sure that, being an individual in the industry that you're at, you don't get to kind of hear that a lot, but you really are.
I've heard this before when I bring large amounts of ice cream to various places, actually.
That's whenever the confetti is flying. Yeah!
People are very happy to see ice cream. Mysteriously, a box always shows up missing in almost all of those. I don't understand why that happens every time they unload my
Do
trailer.
they call that shrink? Is that what that's called? It seems to be cargo shrink. It's weird.
Oh, no, we put a forklift through this one box.
Oh, it's weird. It's always the same flavor. Listen, one box had to be sacrificed to the moose. He's like a troll on a bridge.
Call it a tax.
That's right. In order to get past it. Well, I want to make sure that
specifically.
I want to make sure if there's anything that we can pitch, that we can plug people into. If there's other folks out there that identify as trans or are going through this process, I want to make sure that they're hearing a message of hope, they're hearing a message of encouragement, and I want to make sure if there's any unique resources that you've bumped into over time that you've discovered are very, very important to you, whether that's podcasts, websites, support groups, advocacy groups, if there's any law groups out there, and anything that you have, we'll make sure that we actually copy it into the episode description. So anything that's discussed today, guys, if you want to dig into that and find it, you can click the description on this episode, and you can make sure that you have those links available. But I just want to make sure that if there's anything that floats to the top of your mind, that we're at least putting it in front of folks so that they can know about it a little bit. That way they just have some guidance.
Also, there is a charity called the Trans Lifeline. It is a kind of a suicide hotline for specifically trans people. It is staffed entirely by LGBT folks.
Oh my gosh.
And their number is 877-565-8860.
Wow. Say that one more time. What's that number again? As you turned off your phone, I'm sorry.
877-565-8860.
That's wonderful.
Excellent.
The Trans Lifeline. It's a suicide hotline. And if you are out there, whether you could serve in this, whether you could donate to it, or whether you could just share that with the world in case somebody needs it, we want to make sure that folks are finding help. And I know that community especially just has their own unique burdens and struggles, and it's such an isolated path. And so we need more people to stand up and make their voices heard, be a conspicuous story of hope, because folks need that so they can believe that something better is possible for them. I'm so glad to have you, Ellie. And thank you so much for putting up with us. You support the show.
Yeah, I was thrilled to actually get a chance. I'm curious, what were your plans if I didn't show up today? Because I only told you I was going to be here yesterday.
I mean, we have a deep bench of research and commentary. I mean, I'm always prepared. So.
I heard you threw out an entire script just for this show.
I did, yeah. I left it in the car. As soon as I was driving up and I saw you, I was like, oh, good. I don't need this.
Was that the pile of ash on your windshield?
Yeah. That's what that was.
The preparation he goes through would really amaze you. How prepared he is for any situation. He just totally.
That's right.
Prepared.
This is Jim prepared.
Yeah, this is the most prepared version of Jim that you will ever see. So we're so grateful to have you with us. Can you stick around and chime in on some questions for us?
I have a hard out at 1400, but other than that, I'm good.
What is a 1400?
2 o'clock.
2 p.m. Military time.
Great. I knew that.
24-hour clock. It's much more sensible than
The very
12-hour
convenient
clock.
thing today is Ellie's heart out is real close to mine.
Ah, there you go. So we're going to be
we're
just on
very
time.
Convenient.
Let's move it. All right, with that, we will jump into, oh no, not our first question. We have a break, right? Go ahead, Nick.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will discuss boundaries with an abusive parent. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop. Nathan did not send me anything for this week's commercial, which makes him almost as gifted a writer as Nick Tangeman, who you may or may not know authors 100% of the scripts that we use on this show. Special thank you to Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop for supporting the show, and of course the literary mastermind, the Shakespeare of his time, the great and glorious Nick Tangeman, a.k.a. Protein Cookie. If you'd like to join Nathan and sponsor the show, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about boundaries with an abusive parent.
Hey guys, do you have any book recommendations for an adult child who finds out a parent is a violent abuser to their other parent and how to cope with whether or not to continue a relationship with the abuser? I found out one morning from my mother that my father had raped her the night before. I was pressured by my youngest sibling to go to the police, and from there my mother was interviewed by the police and got a protective order from my dad. I was in the room and I heard the details of the 42 years of sexual abuse and rape my mother had to go through. My mom has been coping well enough, getting appointments for therapy and for an attorney, and I have been doing my best to allow her to express her thoughts and feelings, as well as letting her know it's okay to have feelings and to grieve. I have already established boundaries with my father, telling him that I couldn't emotionally have or want a relationship with him at this time, due to knowing the details of what he did. Already he has tried to test these boundaries, and I have stood my ground. My siblings, without wanting to know the details, have decided they don't want to take sides and want to continue a relationship with my dad. But it seems like in doing so, they are not supporting my mom. My question to you is, if I want to pursue a relationship with my dad, is there any way to separate the abuser and my father? How can I deal with finding out my dad is a monster? P.S. I'm scheduled to see a counselor later this month, but I thought I could get a jump on organizing my thoughts and emotions. Thank you, Anonymous.
Yeah, that's a difficult question. Can you really separate your dad from the abuser that you just learned that he is?
Yeah, right.
That's a tall order. I don't know as if that really can be done. I mean, I think the relationship has now completely changed. Yes, he's still your father, but now you understand all these other components. You can't just, I don't think it's going to be as simple as just sweeping that under the rug, as just saying, oh, I'm just going to pretend that that's not him and that this is the person that I know, this is the person I grew up with, so therefore I'm going to treat him the same as I always have. Obviously, I think that's pretty unrealistic.
What do you think about the siblings?
Yeah, like for them to not want to take sides and say, don't tell us. Gosh, it's complicated.
Do you think they should bring the siblings into it and tell the siblings the information even if they don't want to hear it?
Okay. So let me take that question with, I think, this other one that Nick was kind of talking about, is how do you separate the two people? Ryder, here's kind of the really difficult situation you find yourself in. You have love for and an organic connection to somebody who has proven themselves to be nothing like you thought they were. And so there is this sense inside of you desiring justice. And so you desire justice for your mother. And that extends to wanting your siblings to take a stand and to have a united front of boundaries and punishment for the father. And yet, we're talking about the type of relationship that historically does get put into a special circle of unconditional love. And so this catch-22 that you're in, I don't have a clear answer for you, but I just want to sit alongside you for 1 second and appreciate the complexity of this. I want to reverse it. If your father discovered that you had done the exact same acts to your spouse, what would your father do in response? And the answer for most families is be horrified, be unsure what to do, want to take a hard stance against this, want to communicate to you that it's unacceptable, and yet be unwilling to sacrifice the fullness of your relationship for that end. So I just think that this is a no-win situation. I don't see a way that you can recruit the siblings and enforce the boundary. There is no justice to be achieved in that sense. What matters, I think, is to separate mom from dad, to encourage mom to safety. When safety's been achieved and when mom has made the decisions that she needs to make legally, and I think you guys can stay out of that, not encourage mom to do anything one way or the other, but allow mom to reach those conclusions with counsel. And once mom does them, to stand back. But I don't know. I empathize with the siblings in a sense, and Jake, I'll be interested in hearing your take on that. I wouldn't want to know. I think that part of me would say, I'll take the footnotes on this. I'll take the table of contents. I believe you. Mom went through a horrible, horrible thing, but I don't want to hear that because that's my mother, and that would scar me for life to hear that. But I conclude with you that that's true. But then I guess for the siblings to say, well, we intend to keep having a relationship with dad. Yeah, I can see where that feels like a smack in the face.
My concern there is that it's going to be a wedge between the siblings.
Yes.
Yeah,
as it goes
absolutely.
forward.
Yeah.
Like my concern, almost the reason that I say, I think if it were me, and I'm just I'm a know-nothing sound guy in all of this. I think if it were me, I think I would tell my siblings all of the details that I know. because I want my siblings and I to be on the same page.
At least to share that together.
Yeah.
Because you have a burden that they don't have. And
Right.
you want them to at least know.
And I want to not resent them if they do choose to continue a relationship with the father.
Do it with all the facts.
I want to not resent them for reasons that they don't understand.
Wow.
I want to if I'm going to resent them later on, I want them to at least understand the reasons that I'm resenting them.
It's such a
Do the
difficult
siblings have a right to not know?
Can they
Right.
tell you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
I
that you
think-
kind of do
I
have that
think-
right to say, I'm not calling into question what you've heard or what is true.
Right.
I'm just asking for mercy. Please don't give me this.
And I
can't
think you're-
unhear it.
And it's and you just said it's a no-win situation.
Yes.
Because I think they do have that right to not know.
yeah.
I think I also, if I'm the writer, if I'm in the writer's shoes, there, I think I have the right to salvage the family that I can.
There's nothing is going to happen without consequence.
No, it's good. It's
So
shitty.
yeah.
It's
so
shitty.
so
All
yes,
directions
yes,
are
they
terrible.
they definitely have the right to not know. They have the right to like I don't want to get involved. I
Yep.
just want to maintain. They have that right, but that right comes with consequences, which is probably going to mean that it's going to change the dynamics of everybody in the whole family.
Yeah.
It's going to cause a divide between siblings. It's going to cause a divide between all sorts of family members, anybody who's involved in this, and people are ultimately going to be picking sides. I think maybe the best thing to do in this situation is to, if they're saying I don't want any information, if I were in that situation, I would say I respect the fact that you don't want this information, but you need to understand that by not having this information, you're making decisions, and there are going to be consequences. So there's going to be consequences regardless. So would you rather make decisions based off of all the information, having access to all the information, or make decisions based off of a select amount of information?
Yeah.
And then if they still are in that same boat where they're like, you know what, I just don't want to know, then I think you have to respect that. But you don't have to maintain. You have to understand that is going to change the dynamics of the relationship.
So, Ellie, I mean, as you kind of hear this thing, I think that the three of us are staring at this thing and going, wow, this is just a no-win horror show of difficulty. Do you have any thoughts on this? I mean, you've dealt with some pretty tricky situations in your life. What do you think about this?
This might not be a popular answer, but I think your relationship with your siblings is more important than that with your parents.
Yeah.
Once you're an adult, and I know what I'd prioritize there. I've had to remove some family members entirely from my life, and family is more the people you choose to be around and less the people that you're actually blood related to a lot of the time. So,
Well said. Very true.
and
I would agree with that.
if the dad's abusing one person, they're going to be abusing other people. Past
be.
behavior, future behavior, and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you could also make the argument too that by physically abusing their mother, they are emotionally abusing everybody else.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not they know what's happening, they are in that environment. They are part of that system.
One thing, though, that I want to add to this level that I think a lot more listeners can resonate with. I don't think every listener would hear this and think, wow, I relate to that story. But here's something I think a lot of people relate to. Maybe you find out that one of your parents had an affair on the other one.
Right.
And you're horrified. And you're like, oh, my God, that was unjust. You ruined, mom, you hurt her, whatever. And there's this desire internally for justice or to protect the vulnerable or infringed upon family member. And yet it is often the case in a therapeutic environment that we'll try to help that person at least arrive at, but you're allowed to be selfish a little bit too. You don't have to be the hand of justice in the family because maybe that person's not going to go to jail for what they did, and so the rest of the family is going to petition and boycott and embargo them. Sometimes we want that person to understand you have the freedom to just choose. My kids are going to know their grandfather, and we're going to go to Disneyland. And if that hurts mom's feelings because mom, is horrified that this guy did this for so long, and there's a duality in him. Okay, I'm going to have to live in the uncomfort of this, but that's an authentic choice too, and you're not a bad person or an immoral person for saying I'm still going to choose to. This is still my father. He's still the grandfather of my kids or whatever. The way I have to judge him based on how he's treated me. If I find out that he has been defrauding, taxes for 15 years, or he's committed crimes, or he was a drug dealer, or God forbid he hurt another member of my family, which I think a lot of people listening could relate to. I think you're always in that catch-22 of loyalty to the person who's been punished or hurt and a desire to see some kind of boundary or justice, and yet an internal desire to sort of know that person authentically for who they are to you. And it's a dichotomy. I don't think it's a paradox, but I think that those are both legitimate feelings.
I agree with that, and that makes sense. And I think ultimately just understanding the relationship fundamentally is going to change. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be destroyed, but you're going to have something different at the end than what you started with.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. Because if you're in that situation where a parent did something that you disapprove of, does it change the relationship? Yes. Can the relationship get back to where it was? Yeah. It could. You could work on it. You can build that relationship again. But ultimately, things have consequences.
Yeah.
You know, when something happens, there's a natural consequence behind that, and that ultimately is going to be how the dynamics change within the family system.
Yeah. So to the writer, listen, I think that you've baffled us all with this one. I think it is a complicated one. I think that you're going to have opposed values, a desire to have love and loyalty to your father, a desire to have loyalty and justice and compassion for your mother, being just straight up horrified at this, being resentful at your siblings for not shouldering this burden alongside of you, for you alone carrying the poison of this truth, and then trying to love each person. And I guess that's the one thing, writer, that I could offer you by the way of insight. I think you're already doing a great job of nudging mom toward helpers. You yourself are going to see helpers. I want that for you. I think in many ways you're going to grieve. And I think if you look at this from a grieving perspective, that you are grieving the loss of an identity, that you're grieving the pain of your mother, that it's just terrible in that same kind of reckless and catastrophic way that death is terrible, and that there's not just a way to make it go away. I think that's kind of what's fallen into your lap. And I think you standing up to that is heroic and beautiful. And the thing I want to challenge you is just to be authentic with each member of your family, to each sibling individually, to your mother individually, even to your father individually, and to not question that aspect of yourself. You're allowed to love people for how they treat you, and you're also allowed to try your best to reconcile that with the way that they've hurt others. And it's an imperfect strategy, but at least that will be true to yourself.
It may be a case where you just have to tell the siblings too, you know, if you don't want to know these details, if you don't want to know what I know, which I would like to tell you what I know.
Right.
So if you want to come back to this later on, let's revisit this later. But in the interim, I need you to not tell me about what, you know, your activities with our dad.
Right.
Right.
And I'll respect your desire for silence and your desire to still have a relationship with dad. And I'm going to ask in return that you respect my need to not connect with dad right now.
Because I don't want to resent you for having that relationship, for continuing that relationship. I mean, that may be I don't think that's a long-term answer.
Right.
And then it becomes, of course, tricky because then there's family events. And then it's like, well, dad's going to be there. So we're letting you know dad's going to be there.
Yeah.
And then there's this desire being like, so which one of us has a better legitimate right to be there, right? Dad did these horrific things for 40 years to mom, and I am innocent. You know, I'm just the one who found out. So, like, there's so many layers of complexity. Yeah. I'm so glad to hear the writer's going to visit with a therapist.
Yeah.
That, I think, is absolutely vital to this.
Yeah, because ultimately, at the end of the day, you're always going to be living with you. So regardless of what other family members you have going in and out of your life, you are the most important person. So visiting a therapist, being able to talk through your emotions and your thoughts, and you becoming mentally and emotionally stable and staying that way through this whole process, very important. So glad to see that.
Glad to see it, writer. Thank you so much. Good luck with this, and just continue to do what's right for you. I think as long as you're being honest and authentic in the moment, you're going to find that turns out to be the right answer, at least for now. And I think this is going to look a lot more like grieving than it does anything else. So anyway.
All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we discuss announcements. We discuss that. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Dr. Ben Don. In 1898, Dr. Don was on the throne. William McKinley was president, and the United States was at war with Spain. At the beginning of that summer season, Teddy Roosevelt had yet to ride upon San Juan Hill, Henry Ford had yet to make the Model T, and there was no Panama Canal. Ocean City was hardly more than a sandbar, yet Shriver's was there, serving the grandparents and great-grandparents of people who still come to America's greatest family resort. right. If you know the Saltwater Taffy and Fudge Company,
Could it be Shriver's, the one that you just mentioned?
you can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up along with Dr. Ben Todd. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
This is what non-preparing.
Jim is literally just picking up pieces of paper off
I'm so
the
glad
table.
that ICS just hoards random shit. This is not the first time that I have randomly reached out, grabbed something from this table, and read
this
it.
isn't the first time you've been unprepared for a podcast?
So let's
Get
talk
outta
about
here.
the
Weird.
fantasy football that just occurred. I'm actually looking at more objects for
All
the
right.
next show. So we launched our official fantasy football league. Dun, 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 dun. So we have officially launched. We did our draft today, and I'm here to say that, Nick, you did a respectful job. I thought it was a damn decent team. Do you remember who your first pick was overall?
Nope. It was the guy at the top of the list.
Yeah, that first guy. That was the one. I believe first pick overall was Smitty Scoop. And Smitty grabbed, I want to say it was Christian McCaffrey, which I thought was a very good pick. I'll tell you. Boo, yeah. Nobody likes, nobody in Nolans likes anybody in the Panthers. Your pick, Nick, was David Johnson from the Arizona Cardinals. Mine
sounds
was
right.
Michael Thomas from the Saints.
What?
Solid.
These are the first 3 picks?
This is the first round. No. I was 10th. I was last pick overall.
What? Give me the picks in order.
In order, Scooperman Complex, which is Smitty Scoop. He picked Christian McCaffrey.
That's a bad first pick.
I love that pick. The Philly Freudians, which is who's the Philly Freudians?
That's
Lehman.
Brian.
It's Brian. Yeah, Brian Lehman. He picked Saquon Barkley. It was a good choice.
That should have been the first pick overall.
I think that was a solid second pick. I would have picked CMC as well. And then number 3 overall, and this is a good team name, Steve Young's West Coast, but Young is spelled Jung.
Yeah, that was good.
That was so solid. That was so solid. And that was DeAndre Hopkins was the pick there. THERAPOD Andrea, who's actually going to be joining us in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Going to be in studio with us. And THERAPOD Andrea picked Alvin Kamara. She's my week 1 rival. She's going down, taking her down to Chinatown. Pod Therapy listens to you, which was Dan Martin in his Yakov icon. That was Ezekiel Elliott was the first pick there. The Milgram Shockers, which, as you already heard, is a very lengthy background and research, was David Johnson for the Cardinals. And then Borderline of Scrimmage. That was a pretty solid name. That was Patrick Mahomes. So QB went in the first round, pick number 7 overall. A little early. I feel like Borderline probably could have just waited for me to pick twice and then grabbed it, but second pick was Julio Jones. Not bad. And mine was Michael Thomas. So we got a good league going on. Week to week, we will pause to let you know who's doing what, who's facing who.
Because we know you care.
As we know you care, and we want to make sure that you are caught up with all of the dealings that happen. The first week, as far as who's playing who, let's see what we've got here.
I play Borderline of
You're
Scrimmage.
playing Borderline of Scrimmage? Okay, and I'm playing Andrea, so it's going to happen. So it's going to be down. And then Steve Young's West Coast is going against Pod Therapy Listens to You. The Philly Freudians are going against Scooperman Complex. The Milgram Shockers are against Borderline of Scrimmage. So we want to thank all those who joined our Pod Therapy Fantasy Football League. It is going to be a lot of fun. We are really looking forward to it. And I'm sure all of you are looking forward to hearing about our victories and travails week after week. So
I should have played. I would have won that league.
I'm so disconnected from trucking. I didn't recognize a single name that wasn't a Patreon.
No clue what's going on. So anyway, that's the update on that front. And we also want to make sure that we are thanking folks. I sent you the Patreon file.
Yes, so we have 2 new TheraPods this week. Terrible Monkey Scoop
Woohoo!
and Katie. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, Katie upgraded from a TheraPal. Thank you, Katie. We love you back.
Okay, and we've got, we need to thank our TheraPods.
Yes, this is airing the first week of the month. You want me to do it?
Yeah, sure.
This is airing the first week of the month, and so we want to thank all of those who contribute to our show at the $5 or up level. So this includes Andrea Anderson, who shall be going down to Chinatown this week, Brad Kefauver, Brian Lehman, a.k.a. the Philadelphia Freudians, I thought that was with Philly Freudians, Brooks Lyle, Chelsea Saracen, Corey McTits, Curtis Kiwi Fruit Scoop Hanlon, Dan Martin, a.k.a. Pod Therapy Listens to You, David Pollock, Easy Whip, Fred Bashara Jr., Gavin Bristow, Heather I broke it! Heather Psychotic Scoop. I broke your thing. I don't know where anything is. No. Oh, there it is. Ian Whitefall, Ice Blue Scoop, James Cole, Jessica Vint, a.k.a. Scoopy Jess, Joseph Pengrazio, Carrie Terhark. Ah, good. That's how you can scroll downward without breaking anything. Kate Keller, Katie, Kenneth Soto, Lori Eltzroth, Leon Kassab. Leon is, what did his team name end up being?
Leon?
Yeah. Who did he was, he's the one that's facing you, isn't he?
Yeah. He's, the one we just talked about.
Yeah, we just said it. He's not the Philly Freudians.
Borderline.
Borderline of scrimmage. Yeah, that was pretty solid because I was giving him hell that he needed to change his name. Linda Brandmeier, my Canadian sponsor, once I decide to flee this republic. Lindsay Bashara, Lindsay Borders, Manuela Musakyu, Malaya, Mike. Oh, I broke it again. Okie Scoop. Damn
Jesus.
it. It's really hard to scroll. Peter Van Pelt, Richard Bruins, Robert Paulson, Scoop John B., whose Twitter's on fire, Scoopaholic, Scoopiter Ascending, Scoop Stranot, Stacy Westerlin, Terrible Monkey Scoop, and introducing Tom Morrison, who is now your Alpha TheraPod at $15. And technically, Ellie should be the alpha, but you became a de facto member of the board.
TheraProducer.
Yeah, PodRooster. That's right.
And we especially want to thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, Mysterious and Shrouded Illuminati, members of our fan club, the TheraProducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Chairman of the Board, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop, Violon, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Don, and here with us today, ex officio board member Ellie O'Daire.
Thank you, Ellie O'Daire.
The best part about doing that the way I did it is I get all the benefits of being a producer, none of the homework.
Until now.
Oh God, why did I say anything?
Yeah, we expect all of our TheraProducers to eventually show up in Las Vegas and be on the damn show. They're like, I just want to give you money. Like, why are there commitments to this? If you would like to hear this episode uncut and unedited, you can hear our extended interview with Ellie and enjoy our spontaneous side projects like book club and fantasy football. Did you see the burn on Twitter where they're like, oh, how long is fantasy football going to last? 8 weeks? Like the book club?
Yeah.
That was so solid. I don't even know who did that, but it was really funny. You can go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. And thank you all for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and our special guest, ex officio TheraProducer Ellie O'Daire. If you'd like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/therapy. If you'd like to share the show with somebody else, you can copy and paste the link provided that is in this episode's description into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys and on Facebook.com/PodTherapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Jacob's Protein Cookie.
I am Sin City Shrink.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.
Jacob's Protein Cookie. I'll get you a football jersey that says that.